Okay, ladies and gents, I believe this is going to be the night we finish this. I got up extra early and started, the community editor's not out, and we're going to be discussing that. Started rolling people, getting people, and rolled maybe the luckiest person ever. Look at this guy. He is, I think, the only guy I'm going to take with me. This man by himself makes 5 beds. Sleep psychology gives him 2 beds. Hero bonus of outdoor living, 2 more beds. And then he can't sleep, he can sleep anywhere, so -1 bed. So this man by himself, if you count the fact that he doesn't use up a bed, 5, but produces 4. It's impressive. I had to dress him up in the shark hoodie. We have some cool bonuses going on. You're about to meet your disappointingly limping... Okay, I got some more negative people too. But you're about to meet your leader. Her name? Chelsea. And this is where we're going to begin our discussion on the nature of the Afflicted Warlord run and what I would do different if I was to do this again as we try to get to the finish line. She is technically afflicted by our rules. She can't max out a skill. Those were our rules for someone that was afflicted. If I ever did a run like this again, or if I had to do it all over again, because she's good. She's a normal survivor. If I had to do it all over again, it needs to be characters like this. Now, I purposely tried to grab up a bunch of bad characters to try to make this ending legitimate, but I only have so much time before work, and I ended up being another busy day. Our toilet freaking backflowed again, and then I had to get the lawn done one more time before the weather gets really bad, and basically clean out the whole basement again, which is the whole thing. And I'm not going to sit here and bitch and complain, because that's just going to waste everybody's time. But the point is, I didn't have a whole lot of time. I got done what I could get done at sacrifice of sleep. So this is going to end tonight. I've decided on that. I screwed up getting Jewel killed. We talked about that late last night as things rumbled to a conclusion. Chuck is going to get to stay. We beat this tonight. But honestly, Christian, who randomly died when I logged in, it was really bizarre. Another bug that I can't even explain. We have 2 characters with seminars, so I'm going to level up Chelsea a little bit, because it should go really, really fast. We don't need 2 mechanics, but... And this is obviously a huge... There we go. There's another big guy I found that was just awful. Worst fighter ever. Can get 1 star, but see, no Warlord. This girl is also... Actually, she's going to get to stay too. She is like exactly what I've been looking to roll for such a long time, it's not even funny. She would just have to get resourcefulness, but... she learned to sew and she keeps hidden pouches. So if she gets backpacking and resourcefulness, she's gonna be ridiculous. Of course, we have Sid from last night. So this is actually like a great community. And that was always the goal of this run, is I figured, okay, we'll build up a really good community. Oh, we have 2 latrines now. We'll just build up a really good community. And we'll craft a bunch. And... we'll get a bunch of base bonuses and facility effects, and basically we'll craft and build our way through this and show that you can win in State of Decay so long as you understand the base building, understand community building. You can out strategize. There's more than one way to skin a cat. That's what I'm trying to get at. We got some more plague samples going on. This guy's going to get retired here. We're going to go ahead and grab our girl, and we're going to go finish off this last plague heart. We're going to start fast and move fast as we can, considering... What's amazing is we have all this crazy shit, right? We got, look at all those 50 cals we got. Look at all these people we brought in, and yet I still have yet to get a slow cooker. I don't have more than 1 white noise machine. And a screw it. What do I care? And I don't have a network relay, which is the most important thing. I have crazy amount of parts now, too. What was going on is I was recruiting people in. There's a way you can do that with mods. It's very similar to Community Editor. You know, there's no way I could have done this many missions in that kind of speed. But I still had to cycle through random people. And you got to think, I need both someone who couldn't level up all the way and was a warlord. I'll be honest, I actually got one of those guys and got them killed, messing around, getting them to hero and getting some kills, and I was pretty excited because I felt like this guy could totally win because he had really bad cardio. His name was England. Can't see his one of many tombstones back there at this point, but I got his ass killed screwing around, and it was right before I had to go to work. So I had to come home from work and do it all over again, basically. And that's when I decided, you know what, it's late, and this girl technically meets the requirements. So she's our girl. Even though it's whoops, in a very, very lame way. In a larger sense, I wanted to talk about then how State of Decay's, that if they really are serious about making it simpler, I think that's regrettable. I don't think that's at all what they should do. I think it's actually remarkable what they've been able to build and how much it's thought through. I've never seen that before, Network Pro Break. An old spark plug socket, but it gets the job done. Huh. I wonder where we got that from. Because a lot of the people that I was getting into the base were, like, the stuff in their backpack even made sense. So, very, very rarely is there a character, I only had this happen twice, where the combination of stats on them just didn't make any sense. Almost always it's like, oh yeah, he grew up on a farm, so he already knows gardening, and he tells stories, and like, everything kind of like makes sense somehow. So I imagine they've built like archetypes is what they've done, and they go with that. Now we need to get ready to kill some hearts. I want a silencer. It's crazy too that this whole community that's been built up, it's very, very wealthy, is going to all go away very soon. We definitely have samples now. We're not worried about sample. Well, I think we do. I've farmed a bunch of them. Where's our samples at? We had a lot more. Where's the scent blocker? I made a bunch of scent blocker too. Where's that? Okay, 28. Oh yeah, so we did pretty good on scent blocker. 173. Okay, I think we have enough bloater gas bombs to finish this for sure. But we have no chemicals, so shit. But we have scent blocker. It'll be alright. We had all of our issues with the glitchy Viking car. That was pretty disappointing. I'm definitely ready to go check out Trumbull though, and again, State of Decay 3 is getting late in its life cycle. It feels that way. I still really have loved this game. I love the first one. It's right up my alley. I'm going to check out this war of mine, but there's just other projects in that ultimately are gonna need to be moved on to. But games have to sow a very delicate line between pure randomness and limiting the randomness so that the player can at least find a linear path forward. And I think State of Decay is starting to experiment more with being a more linear game, for good or for bad. And it's really a difficult thing because there's a lot of really cool things in this game that a lot of players will probably never get to see. Really let the infection spread. Probably should deal with that before it gets too bad. And I was seeing that when I was bringing in people to try to keep this run going. But ordinarily, the player never would be trying to do what we're doing. But for those players that do, you think, well, why not give them a tool, right? And that makes sense until you play a game like Conan Exiles. Conan Exiles is a survival game. It's really cool. It's got a big map. It's got a lot to it. You can see how crazy our freaking standing is now. There was... the game definitely got more difficult while we were screwing around. And I did that thing where I was just like talking and got cocky. Now this girl, as an aside, the afflicted characters that we brought into the fray so often during this run, I believe that the game wants those characters to die. They're bad, and they're not meant to be played. They're meant to be like, oh, I guess I should exile them, because it's stuff left over from when the game first came out. Nightmare wasn't even an idea. So even in those days, you'd think, okay, I can't really do anything with that character. I wouldn't want them. I want really strong. Where's those shots coming from? Well, the deal is, in Lethal Zone, I feel like those characters are... they die so fast because the way that they're built is like they're not meant to be used. The game doesn't expect you to use them. We have had a lot of base bonuses, and I know I just got to, like, I started the whole episode with, well, I think that you can actually outplay bad characters by having a really good community and a really good base. And to a degree, you totally can. But I also think that there is... because this is a simulation game, there's some things that are a little more like aim assist and on the rails at times. Like when you're in melee, you don't really get to aim the melee. You kind of direct your character, but there's a lot of stuff that starts to occur in the animations that's beyond you. There's not a ton of agency to a degree. There is and there isn't. It's, I would call it at best 60-40, 60 on you. And sometimes you get a really, really well-rolled character, and that is a character that is just gonna refuse to die. Some of that might be psychological. Some of that might be because when you play a character like that, you really don't want him to die. But I think a lot of it plays out empirically, too. That a really tough character with the stuff that you know, have come to associate with a tough character... tough, rough hands, indefatigable, unbreakable, dread runner, you know, that kind of stuff. Those characters, they'll accrue trauma more slowly. They have a bigger health pool. That's the most obvious, but injury severity goes down. When you have bad characters, which I'll say again, if I had to do this all over again, what I would do is have it so that... I'm just going to repair it and get the doors back. Characters like Christian that had like 3 negative traits, that should count as that would count as an afflicted character if I was going to rewrite the rules on this, because going through the RNG to try to get these people, they are rarer than the god characters. I mean, really. Look at Chuck. I got Chucks and Sis, and I got a lot of these guys before I ever got a negative character. They are much rarer than your average, not your average, but your tough characters. You'll get like 3 or 4 tough characters before you get one of these shitty characters. And it's just because the game doesn't think you're going to play with them, so it's more of like a, you know, it's trolling you. In our case, we wanted those characters. Well, for playthroughs like ours, that's where the community editor comes in. And why I mentioned Conan Exiles, I didn't finish that thought either. I'm like exploding with all the stuff all at once and going up and down and in between again. But Conan is a really cool survival game, but it has a cheat menu to it. And once you mess with that cheat menu, at least for me, it's like, because the game is slow and because it wants you to put a lot of hours into it, to me, there's like no going back, because now you can just have whatever you want, however you want. It's just tough to not utilize that. It's like the difference between driving your car to work and walking to work. Yeah, you mean like it'd be good exercise to walk to work every day, but do you really want to walk to work every day? That's why I still play on Xbox with State of Decay, because obviously to do some of the stuff we've done these last couple playthroughs, I'm going into the mods, and what I'm really doing, because I'm not using God mode or anything like that. I didn't give myself 999 of every resource, that kind of stuff that makes things like completely ridiculous. I'm just speeding up what you could do naturally in the game for the sake of both of our time, both you, the viewer, who I appreciate, and me as the person doing the Let's Play, so we can get through this in some kind of decent amount of time, which is why I'm glad Undead Labs allows modding tools. Because if not, for content creators, honestly, are a lot, they're like the in-between, I'm telling you, with developing. Because you're not actively making tools, and you're not actively making things for the game. You're not making digital content in that way. But in a way, you play a role with the game. And you get to know the game so well, and you devise content for the game. You get to... What you have to do is learn how to show it off, and learn all the game systems, and come up with different ideas to keep people entertained within the game. And in a way, in a sort of fourth wall sort of way, you're associated with it. And it's their game. It's Undead Labs' game. I mean, no doubt, this is their baby. They worked their ass off. This game would be... A game like this is such a huge undertaking. I'm not diminishing that at all. I'm just saying, look, content creators that have played this game, like myself, and that's not to poop on the player either, because any player is in a separate but equal element to that whole game development chain of experience. That's 3 years of, like, trying to figure out ways to engage this game and learn how to master this game and know every little nook and cranny of this game. And Undead Labs has got a really... Their community is maturing and growing. They've got some of the State of Decay 1 people still around, like myself, even though I didn't make content back then. But because State of Decay 2 is considerably more popular, they've got some diehards and some pretty decent YouTube views on those diehards. In fact, people can even grow their channels around it. I'm not going to keep this girl. I plan on keeping Chuck, and I plan on keeping the one girl with sewing and keeps hidden pouches, because, man, I've been looking for that kind of character for so long, and I can't believe it randomly got generated. I had to teach him the book, but still. That would have been crazy if they had sewing on him. So that somehow tied into things. Yeah, tools, man, tools. I wish that there were more developers that at the very least supported mods, because mods... Nobody wants to watch somebody just cheat, right? If I was literally running around right now with an indestructible vehicle in God mode and 99 resources, this would be the most boring playthrough ever. At least there is some tension, and I lose people all the time. Like, I'm not saying this is the greatest thing on earth, because obviously it's not edited. I'm not fucking Markiplier or something. But I can always lose, and that at least is tension. Cheating isn't fun. There's not a whole lot of tension unless you're just showing off tools. But it is a huge resource for any content creator to be able to have data and to be able to have mods to try to facilitate ideas and content creation, which comes right back to them, because you're only showing off their product, and they call them influencers for a reason, even though I think most content creators hate that term. And that's because, there's a word for this, but it's something like pipeline. It's when one thing can generate for another thing. So like an oil well generates oil, and then the oil is, you know, makes gas and rubber and all kinds of stuff for us. They talk about that a lot in digital growth, like social media and stuff, that you end up with like different pipelines, but I think it's a different word. So like your Facebook account brings a lot of people over from Twitch, and then your Twitch people really like your TikTok, and like the biggest content creators these days are all people who can have that, like, what is going on right now? Like, I can't even see anything, and I'm stuck. But I'm pretty worried the car is gonna blow up, and we're gonna... What is going on, actually? Okay, so she was in the car, and I saw that at the very, very end. But it was obviously way too late. If we lost this girl that I spent a good 4 hours trying to roll, to be fair, I did screw up the first one. That would have been a lot more fitting, because at least he had, like, he had negative fighting, negative cardio.
Yeah, I can give you some tips.
But still, this will work. I just want to win at this point. So a game like Battleborn.
That won't work.
I could have made so many more guides and made it so much more informative had I not had to spend 80 hours every time I went to make a guide trying to figure out the math via slow motion video on how things work. How exactly does the animation work, frame by frame? How much damage does it do, level by level? What exactly, how much of an increment of gain of strength does a... Oh, this sucks. 12.5% mean? Like, is it linear? Is it exponential? How is that math done? Is it a flat number? And of course, with games, almost always 100% actually means like a quarter, because of the way that it's like, there's a word for it, but it's not there for me right now. It's the way that the function is written, though, and that is better for them to be able to balance it a little easier, because, you know, they double it. Now you're really starting to talk about power creep and stuff. I put a lot of time into that, just Battleborn as an example, but this is, you can apply this to many, many games, all games. I was doing something called a loot compendium. That was my first probably major failure as a content creator. Whether this is a failure right now is yet to be determined, but the whole 6 months of 2 jobs and so on to make some money. Because it was a huge project. I was going to go over all the loot in the game and describe succinctly, I was going to attempt to describe succinctly how it all works. And I had that part figured out because I understood after like 6 months of looking into it, reading about it, figuring it out, because very few people, I mean, Battleborn was a small community. What you realize with like games like this, especially if you stick it out, another way that you kind of cross that line with developers is you're on your own. There's no like big GameFAQ or Steam guide to tell you, yeah, the math in Battleborn is a linear equation, and 10.5% is it was like in Battleborn it was really weird. It was like a hybrid system because it was a flat number depending on what type of damage it was. So like if it was melee damage, it was just a flat increase, but if it was gun damage, it was like a very softened linear increase. It was complicated to a degree. But what was easy was, I think I still have it remembered, is all gear from white to blue to green all had a set price increase, and you could immediately determine whether you had a maximized piece of gear based upon the price. So I can't remember prices, but I think it was like 720 coins was a maxed out blue piece of gear, and 970 in the negative, because there was also max negatives and max positives. And the reason you wanted a max negative is because it was cheaper, and say it was like negative shield. Well, that didn't matter for Eldred characters because they never had a shield. Now here I am, fucking 10 p.m. Thursday night, single 30 with no money in the bank. I'm talking about Battleborn that's been off for a year, but as an example. So expanding on that whole idea of needing like that information so that you can both accurately, you can give people accurate information, but you can also give those people that information in the best way possible and in a fairly short time frame. The problem comes in when the game companies get hyper, I'm going to make it up, get hyper defensive or a real like, they're just super opaque and vague on how, and sometimes how systems in their game work, and sometimes this leads you to believe, like, do they actually understand? Sometimes they don't, because the guy in the engineering team did it, or the guy in the programming team did it. The designers had one idea, the programmers had another idea. How it got implemented in the game in the end is, that was 15 builds ago that they were kind of following it, and then they were on a different team, and so they just don't know, you know, from any given day, the people that are, like, streaming for any given game. One more infestation. I'm not worried. Well, the Wandering Trader. I don't even think I can get there. The only reason would be the network satellite, but I really am just on endgame right now. I want to be done. I want to see Trumbull. This Afflicted Warlord has been a good learning experience. I'm still considering it a victory if we get through this, but yeah, it wasn't the major win because those initial 3 characters. So, State of Decay is it's a good game to make guides for, and the players are really at this point unpacking it. You got a few players, you got Good Fox. There's one guy from, I believe it's India. I don't know where he's from actually, but he's not American. But he knows a ton about the game and he's passionate about it. And he's really gone in depth and dissected the game. Sorry, that's so bright. It's the Mage Well. I'll take the ammo, Ruck. Man, I wish that Vector was a sidearm. So, another thing that adds to that is State of Decay. A lot of the tools are behind. The community editor is not up to date, and today I was using one of the dev menus. Not, you know, again, I could have completely broke everything using the dev menu. All I did was bring people in because I can't use the community editor, and it was going to take a crazy amount of time to try to find exactly what I needed. And see, this is where things get complicated. And I guess we start to tie in more into the bigger picture that I'm going for. As a content creator, I can't cheat because it completely ruins whatever I'm trying to do here as far as making content. Nobody wants to watch, you know, Timmy cheat his way through whatever. But as a content creator, having cheats and having options can help facilitate content. It's a lot easier to do the Afflicted World. Imagine if I could have tuned the game with some mods to make it so that every person that we recruit is terrible. And then that keeps this run about as legitimate as you can keep it, but it also can be done in a reasonable amount of time without having to do a whole lot of backtracking and restarting and relooting and all that crazy stuff. So the best example I know of how you can broker that is, oh god, he's got a name that sounds like a classic music guy, orchestra conductor. He did the crazy, like, 4.5-week stream. I'll find his name. What's because he is named Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig. Great streamer name. Obviously a really talented streamer. Big guy. Anyway. He did that Nuzlocke with Pokemon Platinum. And I watched his YouTube video on it. He talks about how he needed to use, like, rare candies and a few other tools at his disposal. And people would be like, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. That just makes it easy. But he described, and described well, why it doesn't make the game any easier. It just makes it feasible in a lifetime to do some of these kinds of things. So, tools like that, I think, are both good for the company and good for the player. Now, the question becomes, do you just give them to everyone? Now, I would say yes, because it's always an option. I know the temptation is great, and that can be a problem. And so maybe you give them the tools after you've beat the game so many times or something. I don't know, but I do think they need to be open to everybody, because anybody can get into content creation if they really want. That's the beauty of it. But I definitely believe that companies like this Grand Theft Auto thing that's going on now, where they're going to re-release the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, but they're taking out the cheat codes. Almost certainly because they're going to monetize the shit out of it. And this is another thing that's just happening too much in games these days. There are too many reboots and remasters anymore. Hot damn, they are crutching on that hard anymore. Because there's so many games that went the live service route, it's like the industry decided, hey, you know what? Let's just update all of our old catalogs and try to make money off of them, because then we don't have to put any money into R&D. It's like the classic executive decision that ends up leading to a whole house of cards. Like that famous pharmaceutical company with that guy with the EpiPen. That whole company was built and had crazy stock valuations because they would buy up pharmaceutical companies, cut the research and development, jack the price of the pills way up, and then cut and run. They'd keep the company, keep the drug prices going sky high, but they would never actually develop anything new or novel in the world of pharmaceuticals. And they were able to buy some companies that were like your classic pharmaceutical company, 50% research and development, actually makes new drugs, sells them at a reasonable price, and wasn't able to buy one of the better, more consumer friendly and well-liked pharmaceutical companies because their CEO just straight up didn't believe in the model that company was going for. I can't even remember their name, but they have a weird name too. Like the name sounds as bad as what they were. And I'm worried that that's happening in the industry. As many things as we're worried about, from over monetization to the way that social media and mobile gamings have these subtly nefarious psychological hooks to keep Timmy playing and Susie playing even though it makes him depressed or suicidal, which is not hyperbole. We now know the statistics play that out, and that is a true phenomena of the age of social media. I need to get primary care going in a hustle. There's so many zombies. I think there's not a cap to difficulty in lethal. I think the more you play and the more days you survive, straight up the harder this gets. You know, I think that's the way it should be, but damn, it gets hard. It just gets crazy. Okay, one way or another, we gotta get rid of that screamer. So what I'm saying is games are releasing too many remasters, and that makes me think, okay, rather than put money into, it's the classic battle, the artists, the designers, the developers, it's into, hey, we'll pay you so much to get to remaster this game, and then we don't got to put all the money into research and development for a new game. Bet I'm already using medical advice. So they just keep coming in. Need to get to a outpost. It was like this last night though too, with Christian. And as I said, I think Christian went down so many times. He just randomly died when I came in. It was really bizarre. And to be honest, the same thing happened with England. It was going to be our leader for today, and now it's going to be, I can't even remember her name, Christina. He went down 3 times. He was good, though. He was still alive. And then he went down that 4th time, and he was totally going to be able to get up, but the game just killed him. He just fell over and died. I'll do that for them. I need to kill this last heart before the episode ends, though. Having tools and being open about how the math works on things is helpful to the player and helpful to content creators in a huge way. And it's nice with State of Decay. Some things are too opaque on. And they were cagey about Difficulty. We basically know how difficulty works. It took them 2 years to let us know how that works. And we don't even know everything. The story. The story is so... They're doing this thing that I don't even think anybody actually understands. It's called dynamic storytelling, and it was made by this guy who he was a famous game designer. I can't remember his name. I studied him in college, and I thought, like, oh, this guy's amazing. And then I kind of came to think, like, I'm not sure. It sounds really good, but it's like a pie-in-the-sky idea, like communism. Yeah, it sounds like it should work, but then you find out in theory and in practice, no, it fucking is a disaster. So dynamic storytelling, I think it does have more value than, say, like communism, but the whole idea is you don't write a story at all. You create a character, and you create an archetype, and you create a world, but the story is whatever the player does in it. And you have the world act upon the player, and then the player naturally creates their own stories just by interacting with the world and a certain character. That's like the basic level of what he believed that video games needed to become as storytelling engines. And Sea of Thieves is a huge, like, example of that philosophy in action. That is a game entirely built around that idea, but so was Fallout 76 to begin with, and that was, you know, that was a mess. State of Decay is definitely in between. It's in a good place. It has a lot of linear stories that the player needs to navigate, but there are dynamic events that happen, like a feral pack comes and tries to kill you, that are like examples of dynamic storytelling. And that tied into having options. Oh yeah, with State of Decay. State of Decay, I want to make a lore video. It's something I feel like I need to do, be helpful. Just for myself, if anything, just to figure out, like, okay, where are we going as we go into State of Decay 3? I've played this game since I was in my, my 20s. State of Decay 1, all the way to here. I'm still playing State of Decay 2. I might as well go into State of Decay 3. Where the hell are we? Because we had Black Fever, and then I thought they said that they retconned that. But I can't find that clip, though I think they talked about that in the when Daybreak came out. The deal is, people just started getting sick. Like, that's this world. People started getting sick way more often than normal and dying way more often than normal, but it didn't seem like there was a correlation. But the fatality of... So people were dying of heart attack, but people were also dying of cancer. Some people were just randomly dying. But way more than normal people were dying. And they weren't being eaten or anything. And then there's, like, reports that people are coming back. You know, classic zombie thing. And the world disintegrates. At the same time that this is all happening, there is a human future fund in and around Trumbull, where you do a lot of interaction, a lot of story in the State of Decay universe, that are doing work on how to and longen is not a word, so what word am I? Lengthen the human lifespan and cure a number of fatal diseases in the human race. And this group goes black around the time of the Black Fever. I will say that I started watching a lot of streams to try to make this dev video, and see, this is what I'm talking about with. It helps a lot for content creators when developers... See, developers do the same thing we do. Like, if I go, there's a tutorial how to play. Like, look at this. They made this whole set of guides, right? Content creators do this stuff for devs all the time. Make tutorials and get those views. Try to make it as lean and efficient as possible. Try to get them views, Mr. Views. I don't want to be Mr. Views. You can't find that I've been able to discern just a clean beat sheet, an overview, even like an elevator pitch tagline of, hey, here's the story of State of Decay. The only thing that I can get is the Black Fever is blood plague. It's the same virus. It's impacting different areas differently, and it's changing over time. The Human Future Fund was in trouble. They were trying to lengthen the life of lengthen human life and beat, try to create like an panacea for all terminal diseases. They are functioning and making progress around the time that people start dying at large for no particular reason and seemingly unconnected, in a seemingly unconnected way, and you know that it might all tie in. What you have in the world of State of Decay 2 is, yeah, that's that world. You don't actually, and you're just trying to make your hold in it. There's not I never did get these hearts though. The overall narrative isn't really pushed forward. You have two things that happen in State of Decay 2 that push the narrative forward. The DLCs. Daybreak, you get the idea, like, and this is where I was talking about last night, that I think State of Decay 3 is clearly heading in this direction because of this. Groups like Red Talon are actually trying to expand outward. They're retaking land and building walls and trying to build plague-free, zombie-free areas. And there's even a character trait you can find that's like, in fact, we may have had one of them. I probably have lost them. I've cycled through so many characters on this playthrough. Oh my god. Driving for shit. This is really risky. Left 4 Dead, Catholic. Okay. Oh, holy shit. We'll look at them in a minute. But I'm pretty sure I've got a character in there, or I did, that was like a frontier prospector. And it says in the description that they would go out and they'd build walls. God, I like have nothing resembling my original group at this point, though. Just overnight. So we did. So if you go back through, you'll see that that was a character we had. And then so what do we learn from Daybreak? That Red Talon isn't in charge of Cleo. They don't understand where Cleo comes from, but Cleo is assisting Red Talon in at least that venture, but not all ventures. But it is assisting in the whole, let's expand plague-free territory. You also learn from State of Decay 2, unlike in 1, that no one is necessarily in charge of Cleo. The military is not in charge of Cleo. Red Talon's not in charge of Cleo. And you find out in Providence Ridge, when you break down the Cleo deployable, that Cleo is like ostensibly an AI that's gone rogue. As this was like a planned event or something. And an AI got a conscience inside the highest levels of the Pentagon or the NSA or, you know, whatever. I'm just theory crafting at this point. You know, there's no real saying. There's a saw off. That was there that whole damn time. How long I was looking for a saw off. Will I get sick? Oh, it was close. So many zombies around anymore. Crazy that we don't have chemicals. Who all died here? How long ago?
This plague is gonna catch up with me if I'm not.
Stuff like that. Those moments that Bethesda is really still the master of, where the world feels like it's alive outside of you. You're not animating it, bringing it to life. It's got its own energy. Is something State of Decay 3 needs a lot more of. Seeing enclaves looting, running down the street. People, like I said, I want to see that moment that I heard over the radio where people were like being pulled out of their car and screaming for their life. See, right now the scent blocker's working so well. Why sometimes does it work so well and other times they notice you? Oh my god. Look at this. Hello. Damn, I killed the heart. Okay, I'll take it. There was a lot of zombies in there. It's the best the scent blocker has ever worked for us. Ever. That Gladius is pretty good too. I wonder if it's as good as the X-Cadaver. I like to see the difference in the weights. Oh man, I think that I think that's it. I don't see any plague territory. Okay.